So welcome everybody to our session on using Alma Analytics for RapidILL. We're going to be looking at a brand new set of reports in a brand new dashboard, which relates specifically to RapidILL. And we will also show how these reports can be edited for each institution if you want to do something different with these reports. And before we begin, let's talk about a little background of how we got to this new set of reports, how we got to this webinar in general. So we had a request from the Alma RapidILL, or from the RapidILL community. Primarily, we want to thank Lynn Porat. Lynn Porat is the head of the Interlibrary Loan Department at the University of Haifa, as well as chair of the ILL Forum. And as we see here, a member of the Igloo RapidILL working group. Lynn has kindly took time out of a very busy schedule to join us today as a co-presenter, a co-host. Any questions or comments, Lynn will also be joining us in commenting. Lynn, thanks again for joining us. And as I state here in the final bullet, and that's really an understatement, without the initiative and contributions of Lynn, this new set of reports and dashboards would not have been possible. So thanks again, Lynn.
Pleasure.
Also, we want to thank the University of Auckland, specifically Sarah Sladwick, as well as the University of Cardiff in Wales, specifically Bronwood Blatchford, on working with us in creating these reports. What we did is we created a set of reports and put them in a dashboard. Then we ran them in a variety of institutions. Now, these institutions are a variety in the sense of both the way they work, the size, and the geographic location. So when we created these new reports and the dashboard that holds the reports, we wanted to make sure that it would be appropriate for a wide variety of institutions. So we checked it primarily for starters on these three institutions. From New Zealand, Wales, and Israel. And then we were able to say, okay, this works on all of these. Let's check it now on many other institutions. Then we made sure that it also works on all of the other institutions, and it did, so we're good to go. It's coming out in the July release. So let's take a look very briefly at the release notes, which are already out. These are the July release notes. I'm in the release notes here, and I filtered here by July. If I put here rapid, we see here, let's even do it like this. We'll get rid of this because we got actually many things about rapid. So we'll just say rapid. Okay, so we have a new RapidILL borrowing and lending dashboard, which is now available. Contains 13 reports and 11 tabs. I'm not going to read this whole thing now because we're going to see it live, but it's explained here that it's coming out in July. I'm going to be showing it in the June release, so it's not in the final location right now. I'll explain what I mean now. I'm going into one of these dashboards. I'm going to say catalog here. And when the dashboard comes out in the July release, it will be, like all of our default reports and dashboards, under the Alma folder. And then there will be a directory here called RapidILL, which would be right here between purchase requests and requests. In fact, I've got a picture of that here. Here, it's going to be shared folders, Alma, RapidILL. Now I will be showing it in these three institutions under the name of the institution, and then we have a folder called under reports. Then we have a folder called RapidILL. I believe it's RapidILL Ex Libris even. So I'm going to be showing it. Here we go. So I'm going to be showing it under the institution folder under reports, but in the July release, which is coming out very soon, we're already on June 26th. I believe that's the following Sunday it's going to be out. So it will be in the July release here under shared folders, Alma, RapidILL. So that's just a very brief introduction. Also, as a very brief introduction, I want to remind everybody that on our YouTube channel, you have access to all of these presentations about the 2025 Roadmap webinar series, as well as all other videos that we do. If I click here on playlists, for example, we've got a playlist. Oops, let me close that. Yeah, so we've got the playlist here of the Alma 2025 Roadmap webinar series with all of the different presentations we had. We have the Ex Libris webinars education page where all previous sessions are here with a watch now and all future sessions are here with a register. And we've got the 2025 Roadmap webinar series with all of the presentations as well as the accompanying resources here and a link to the recording. We're on what I believe is our 7th session now here. So you've got that brief PowerPoint to download if you're interested. And we will be putting here later today or tomorrow the link to the recording. And you'll also be able to get that in the other locations, which we just pointed out. So without further ado, let's jump in and take a look at the dashboard. And once we're in, we'll start describing what it does. And we will also make what's called an analytics object. When I say an analytics object, I mean it will be the option to be able to access this from analytics and then clicking a link here. The analytics object can also be a scheduled report. We'll look at a scheduled report that I already have set up, which comes to my email. So we'll be able to see what's going on there. All right, so let's check it out. We are going to begin, and again, I thank these 3 institutions, University of Auckland, University of Haifa, and Cardiff, University of Cardiff, Wales, for allowing us to use their data in order to show what this new dashboard does. There's no personal information in any of these, but in any case, they allowed us to use it when we asked permission in advance, and that's why we're showing from real customer data, which does not contain any personal identifiable information, no user information there at all. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. This is it, the RapidILL. And we've got the 3 directories, dashboards, prompts, and reports. All of the reports are here. And all of these reports are explained, by the way, inside the out-of-the-box reports documentation. This is our documentation on out-of-the-box reports. And if I look here at Rapid, we'll see here, here's all of the reports that are new for July for RapidILL. So we've got an explanation of them all here, but I'm going to explain them manually, we'll call it, in any case, so that we'll all see them. So let's take a look. We'll open the dashboard rather than opening each separate report. So we're into the dashboard and open. So we've got the tabs for the borrowing requests. Then we have the tabs for the lending requests, and they are parallel to each other. When I say parallel to each other, I mean we have here borrowing request detailed report. I'm in the first tab. Then I've got lending here. Lending requests detailed report. So a detailed report for borrowing, a detailed report for lending. We'll talk about what it is, what it filters, etc. in a moment. Then we've got a report here of borrowing requests per lending institution. So we can see which lending institutions, for example, we have the most requests for, what their average speed is, etc. And then we have lending for each borrowing institution. And same here, so the institution can start doing an analysis of the borrowing institutions they're working with. Then we have the borrowing requests with an overall picture, which is taking the total hours of requests sent to material rival, dividing it by the number of requests and getting the average time per request. And then we've got the same here on the lending overall. So they're all parallel, as we see. Then unfilled borrowing requests, and the unfilled lending requests. And finally, the filled versus the unfilled in order to be able to see a comparison. So we've got the borrowing here, the number of filled, the number of unfilled, and same for the lending. So we've got 10 tabs, 5 for the borrowing request, 5 for the lending request, and they are really parallel to each other. They're just showing the opposite method, whether it be a borrowing request or a lending request. Then, of course, we have I shouldn't say of course, because not all dashboards have this, but we also have a tab called explanation, which explains, and I will explain this manually, so we don't need to read this, but it explains how the reports are made, because the majority of the reports, so let's say the majority of the borrowing reports have the same filters, the majority of the lending requests have the same filters. And I should point out, while we're looking at this dashboard, that one of the main reasons for wanting to do this is because previously, the way to get data for RapidILL was either make your own report in analytics, or you could come into the RapidILL interface, as we see here, and make a report from within here from the RapidILL interface. The disadvantage of doing it from here, from in the RapidILL interface, is that you cannot integrate this directly with Alma. You can't make that scheduled report to go to email, or make a link from within Alma, or access it with a URL. We're going to see that's also an option. So that was a main reason. We want it all in one place, and we want it to be fully integrated. I think I can close this PowerPoint now anyway. I think we covered everything here. So let's start talking about these reports. So what we're going to do in order to do this in an organized manner is here, where I'm currently at Cardiff University, Wales, we'll be looking at the reports here in the dashboard. Then in another tab, here I am in another tab, in this case, University of Auckland. It's actually another browser, I should be more exact. Here, we're going to look at the reports so we can see how they are made. And later on in the session, we're going to edit those reports. So here in this environment, I'm going to come to the reports. So we'll go to the shared folders. The University of Auckland, which we said in the July release will be under the Institute, under the Alma folder. Here's all the reports. So now let's switch back and forth here. So right now we're looking at RapidILL borrowing requests in previous month with turnaround time being the hours of the request sent to the material arrival, not from the creation date, by the way. We're doing it from the sent date, because it could be a lag for whatever reason we won't get into now, from the creation date. We're doing it from the time it's sent until it arrives. So that's in the last column here. We got the total number of requests, and notice it says in the previous month. So in the previous month, in this sense, means not the last 30 days, not the last 4 weeks, but whatever the previous month was, all of that month. So for example, now I'm June 26th. So this is going to give me all of those from May. Excuse me, we're June 2025. So this is going to give me all of those from May 2025. And when I say from May 2025, I mean the item arrival date is May 2025. So for example, if I take this column here with the item arrival date and I sort this ascending and descending, the earliest date is not going to be earlier than May 1st. So it is May 1st. And the last day I'm going to do descending won't be later than May 31st, and here it is, May 31st. So it's giving me all of those with an arrival date in the previous month, and because it is now June 2025, it's giving me all of those with an arrival date in May. And it includes here the hours of request sent to material arrival. So this is just giving an in-depth, we'll call it, an in-depth view of the various requests that have been made, for whatever reason that the institution might want those. Let's go take a look here now of how those are made. So I'm switching browsers here, and this report here is called RapidILL borrowing requests in previous month per each request, because it's going into each request. So I'm going to come here now and we'll say edit. Just keeping the two browsers so that we can go back and forth. And we'll look at how it's made. And all of the reports in this dashboard are using, oh, we got 101 participants. That's nice to see. So all of the reports here are doing the same retrieval as far as the time goes. They're all doing the previous month. So let's see how they're doing that. And we will come here to the criteria tab. And so all of the reports have, for example, this filter here, which I'll make larger for a moment. So this filter is basically getting the previous month. It's getting the month of the item arrival date by saying equals the previous month. It's doing month minus 1. And then it's getting the year from that month. We can't just take the current year. I can't say it's June 2025, so give me May 2025, because if I were to do that in January, it would give me December, and I couldn't use 2025. I got to use 2024. So without getting into the whole area of creating SQL filters, this one, suffice to say, is saying that it's going to have the item arrival date of the month be the previous month, the month minus 1, and I'm getting the year of the item arrival date from the year of that previous month. So we're all set on that. And then we're saying, let's take a look here. We're saying the partner type, the partner profile type is RapidILL. We had various methods when we started making this of how we want to retrieve the partner. Most of the RapidILL institutions have the word rapid as part of the partner profile, but not all of them. So for example, if I were to come here and look at my partners, all of the partners which are used for the RapidILL are a profile type RapidILL. So that is what we used in order to make sure we're getting the requests, which are part of the RapidILL. If an institution now wants to use this for overall resource sharing, for example, I'm in the borrowing request subject area, the institution can remove this and have for all types of requests. Then we've said the lending library is not none, meaning there really is a lending library, just to make sure it's really a completed request, even though technically speaking, that's not necessary, because once we have an item arrival date, we're all set on that. Then we've got that the requested format is digital. And then we're saying the hours of request sent to material arrival is greater than 0. In case, for whatever reason, there was one without a time, these are just assurances. Once we have that partner profile type RapidILL and we have the date of the item arrival date, we're covered. But it's nice when making an analytics report, not even related specifically to our RapidILL new dashboard, to have these other assurances in place. So in the future reports, I'm not going to return on this. I'm not going to say again that they're doing this retrieval of the previous month of whatever year is relevant, because they all have that. Let's go back to the dashboard now. So there's 978 requests. If I go now per lending institution, I'm in the tab borrowing each lending, there's also 978. And if I come into the borrowing overall, that's just giving me hours. So there's always going to be 978 in these reports. Here we are, filled 978, because they're all using the same filter as far as the time goes. Let's take a look now at this one here. So now I'm in borrowing each lending institution. And for comparative purposes, we'll go see here what this one is doing. So I'm going to come back here into catalog. And we'll see basically that it's doing the same type of filter. It's merely displaying the data in such a way that we can analyze according to the lender. So we can see which lenders have the most requests, least requests, fastest turnaround time, etc. But if I come here and we look at the criteria tab, which we're going to do in 1 second, there we are, criteria tab. So we see here the same filter here. And we also see the same filter up on top here. We see that it's profile type RapidILL. The lending library is not null. the format is digital, and the request sent to material arrival is greater than 0. However, we see here that we're showing different fields. And the reason we're showing these different fields is that now the institution can come and do an analysis by the lending institution. For example, I can come to these number of requests and say sort ascending or descending. Let's say sort descending. And now I can see which institutions are supplying the most borrowing requests. I see Internet Archive is the biggest. By the way, I see that in many places. San Francisco State University, University of Sheffield, Delaware, etc. So I can see there. And I can also sort this, for example, ascending by hours of requests sent to material arrival. So I can see who the fastest ones are. Internet Archive, by far the fastest at 0.39 hours. So that's like 20 seconds. I mean, 20 minutes, because it's less than half of an hour. In any case, let's continue here. So that's the borrowing each lending institution. Then we've got the borrowing overall. So this borrowing overall is doing the same type of retrieval, but now we're only showing the partner code, the requested format, the hours of requests sent to material arrival, and the number of requests. I'm going to show this one in another institution, just so we get a nice comparison. Now I switched over to University of Haifa. Let's come in here also to this. And just for comparative purposes here, I'm also going to go to that third tab, which is showing me the overall. The overall being what is the average time for the previous month that a borrowing request was supplied. So here we've got one partner code. And this number here, 1740, is the total number of hours of requests sent to material arrival divided by the number of requests. So if I were to say this total amount of hours divided by that 260, I don't think I'm sharing recording. I don't think I ever recorded. Yes, recording is in progress. Great. Whew. Okay, so anyway, back to where we were. I'm going to say here this divided by the 260 and 17.39, which if we round up is 17.4. Is it 17? What happened there? Let's take a look. 452328 divided by 260. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. That's why. Human error, not an Alma error. And here's what I want to do. So we're taking this divided by 977. So we'll say this divided by, what was it, 977? 14.95. Oh, it's 977. Oof. Oh, it is 977. Okay, 14.95, 14.94. Rounded it down because we're taking two digits. So that's how we're getting the hours. And that's along all of the reports which have the hours, because we saw they all have the hours, average hours. It's always taking the hours divided by the number of requests. So 2.17 divided by 3 is going to be 0.72. Let's check that, because now that I'm sure we're recording, I don't want someone to check that and say, what did you all say? Divided by 3, and we see here 0.72, 0.72. Okay, let's move on. And then there's all of the unfilled requests. So the institution can see what are my institutions, what are the users in my institutions requesting that's not being supplied. So this is RapidILL borrowing requests unfilled in previous month. So this is very similar to all of the previous reports. The only difference is that it's getting those that are unfilled. The time is going to be the same. In other words, it's checking the previous month. Let's say edit here. But it's getting those that are unfilled. We're also going to have a different type of filter on the item arrival date, because if it's unfilled, well, let's look at it before I say any more. But I think you get the hint, but we'll take a look at it anyway, that because it's unfilled, I will be using different filters. Because here, for example, I'm saying it's rejected. In the status, it's rejected. The partner active status is rejected. And I'm not using the item arrival date because it doesn't have an item arrival date, but it is still the partner profile type as RapidILL, and it still is the requested format as digital, and it still is the same filter as far as the retrieval goes. Let's now continue, and we're almost ready to move on to the lending, but first we have just an overall picture of the number of filled versus the number of unfilled. We're working on this report, by the way, to be able to make it a pie. Right now, the way these measures are being made, we can't put it all in one report. In any case, this we're working on so we can make a pie here and make it all in one report. It's actually showing two reports here. There's two reports behind the scenes being displayed here. The filled versus the unfilled. We can even take a look at them, even though it's not the biggest invention here. But let's take a look. They're called only the number. We've got reports here called only the number. So this is borrowing requests unfilled in the previous month, only the number. So if we look here at this one here, these are the unfilled. So it's basically doing the same as that unfilled report that we saw 1 moment ago, but it's only displaying the total number. But in the criteria tab, it's got all of them. It's got all of the filters that we saw before in the unfilled report, and it's merely displaying only the measure of the ones that are unfilled. Then we've got the borrow requests filled, which also has only the number. And here it is, borrowing request filled. And it's the same report as we saw for the analysis of the borrowing institution and for the analysis of the report of the borrowing requests more in depth. It's, again, merely showing only the number. But if I come to the criteria tab, we'll see the same filters, same with the time, same with the partner type RapidILL, the lending library not none, the requested format digital, and the hours of request sent to material arrival greater than 0. So those are the borrowing requests. I'm going to stop the sharing for a moment, and I'm going to see if there's any questions or comments. Lynn, if there's anything you want to add about what we stated about the borrowing requests, feel free. And then we're going to jump to the lending requests. I'm going to open up the chat for a minute and see if there's anything here. And let's take a look. Lynn, go ahead, Lynn.
The only thing that I would mention is that there's no aged out. That's like the main difference between the rapid interface, the native rapid interface, and doing statistics via Alma analytics. Just a minor point.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out.
And the other thing I would point out is that you can integrate all the rapid reports with your regular resource sharing reports. So if you want to compare the percentage of rapid requests to the percentage of ESO or the percentage of email requests, and you can do that with your regular reports. You don't have to have rapid as separate reports, but most people probably will want to. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, so maybe that actually relates, Lynn, to this last question. It says the new dashboard is for RapidILL only or also for Rapido. Lynn, do you want to comment on that?
I don't know the answer because we don't have Rapido, but Bronwyn is here who has Rapido, so maybe she can respond in the chat.
Okay, and Bronwyn, I will also, if you're interested and want to speak, I will make you also. Bronwyn is also worked with us on these reports. As I mentioned at the beginning, Bronwyn, I'm also going to make you a panelist, but you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. But if you would like, you can speak and you can do anything you'd like, but you don't have to if you don't want to, or you can just write in the chat. In any case, I'll also comment. So these reports can be for whatever you would like, as Lynn alluded to. I'm going to share my screen again. Right now, the way they're set up is they're for RapidILL. I'm going to share again. As we pointed out when we went in here, I'm saying partner profile type equals RapidILL. If we remove that, then we're going to get a lot more reports. In fact, let's even take a look. If I come here now, I don't know which institution I'm in. I'm in University of Auckland. Okay. I'm going to come into another institution just so we can see something happening here. So here I am in Cardiff. If I were to come now for borrowing each lending institution, Let's even come into the catalog and edit. We'll go first to the reports, and we will come to borrowing each lending institution. So I've got borrow requests previous month per each request. Okay. So right now it's using the hard-coded filters that we've seen, and I'm going to change it. So right now we have 978 for the previous month. If I were to come to the criteria tab, now I don't know fully in depth what the data is here, but if I come to this filter and I get rid of this filter that says profile type equals RapidILL, and we save this, now I'm no longer getting only the RapidILL. Now, let's see what we got here. Oh, we still have the 978. It could be by chance. I could check the other filters. And I'm going to come here and say, let's even get rid of that filter. So now I'm just getting everything for the previous month that has an item arrival date from the previous month. And 1,271. So now I'm getting many more that aren't just the RapidILL. Okay, Bronwyn's convent, like Yoel says, it's the profile type. Yep. So we remove that profile type and we see we have more. So if you want to use this not only for RapidILL, you can do like I just did, or you could take that report, duplicate it, and have one where the profile type is RapidILL and one where the profile type is not RapidILL. In fact, just for the fun, let's take that one here. I'm going to say per each, let's take per each request. What would happen here if I came along to the criteria tab? Let's not spend too long on this. We want to show the lending requests, and I want to show how this can be integrated with Alma. I'm going to say instead of equals RapidILL does not equal RapidILL. Profile partner profile type does not equal RapidILL. I could also get rid of some of those others there. Some of those other filters. Nothing. Okay. So let's go to, let's say it could be that there's none here. I'll say previous 5 months. Or I could try it in a different institution. Well, let's see. Nope. So we can come elsewhere. I got so many open here. That's my Chrome. And here. Okay. Let's come here. So here, if I say borrow request filled in previous, let's take the per each request. Again, I don't know what each institution has, but let's see here if I say the profile type is not RapidILL, just for our comparative purposes. I'm going to come to this one and say profile type is not RapidILL, and I'll get rid of all this stuff here. So now I've changed that default report. I've left the same filter of the time, but I've said the partner profile type is not RapidILL. So if there are others, I will get them here. Okay, so I've got 459. These are not RapidILL. Or to be more exact, the lending institution is not a partner of type RapidILL. So that's how we could integrate it all together. Let's move on to the lending requests now. If I'm already in this environment, we'll stay in this environment. So let's come to the catalog. And again, we'll open up the dashboard. So we're under dashboards, open, and now we'll move on to the lending. And this is going to go quicker because they're basically built the same way. It's just using the lending request subject area instead of the borrowing requests. It's doing the same type of filter as far as the time goes. But of course, it's not using the item arrival date because now we're doing the lending. Okay, Bronwyn points out, thank you, Bronwyn, the profile type for RapidILL would be ISO. We also do ISO as part of our Wealth Plus interlending scheme. Actually, you can all see the chat as well. So thank you, Bronman, for that additional information. And I'm in the lending detailed report. So let's go see how is this one made. We've got 370 lending requests made in the previous month. And let's go take a look here as to how that one's made. So we'll take that report. We'll say edit. Now I'm in the lending request. So all of the previous reports that we looked at, we were in the borrowing request subject area. Now, as you can see here on the top left, we're in the lending request subject area. We'll switch to the criteria tab. So now we're doing by the item sent date. Let me make this a little larger. Previously in the borrowing request, we were doing by the item arrival date. Now we're doing by the item sent date. And again, we're using the same type of SQL, doing the previous month of the relevant year. When it's January, it would be the previous year. All others, it's the current year. And the partner profile type is RapidILL. Pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at the next one. Now we've got lending each borrowing institution. So the purpose here is to come and see among all of those institutions, first of all, the number of requests. Which request, I can sort this descending or ascending, have the most requests. University of Tasmania with a whopping 13, followed by Oregon State and SUNY Upstate. Then we can also see here average hours of requests created to material sent. So here I can sort descending and ascending and see which ones are the big ones. So Georgetown University Medical Center had the largest with 168 hours, but we see there was only one request. And coming all the way from New Zealand to Washington, D.C., then maybe that's a good time, actually, 168 hours. In any case, we've got all the different amounts here. This one here, SUNY Upstate, that's a nice time, 7.82 hours average with a total of 11 requests. That's looking pretty nice. In any case, so then we've got here the lending overall, just looking at the overall picture. Again, this is doing the total number of hours, which is 5192.92, divided by the total number of requests, which in this case is 370. I want to make sure that works because I don't want something in the recording here coming up. 14.03. So what do we got here? 14.03. Either the calculator works or the analytics works or they both work. So that's just giving an overall picture of what is the situation in the institution. Then we've got a list of all those unfilled. What have other institutions been requesting from us, from my institution, that we have not been able to supply? And the filled versus unfilled, we saw this in the borrowing. Here we're looking how many were requested from us that we have not been able to fulfill. So in the past month, we filled 370. We didn't fill 680. And then we've got that explanation tab, which we're not going to go into now because I already explained. But it's saying here, for example, that all of the borrowing are using the RapidILL there. They're all doing that filter we saw at the time. That one, which is unfilled in the previous month, that one's a little different because here we're not doing by the item arrival date. We're doing by the borrowing creation date. And then the same explanation on the lending requests. We put this explanation built into the dashboard. Let's see now an example of me wanting to change one of these reports and then make a link to a report or even to the entire dashboard. We can do them both in one of these institutions. So let's say I'm going to come now to, where am I here? This is that one. Let's say we want to stay in Chrome. All right, we're going to stay in Chrome now. So let's say now I go to this dashboard and I decide that I want something a little different. So let's go up a level from the reports into the dashboard and open. So now I come along and I decide this report's very nice, but I actually want something a little different. For example, maybe I want the borrowing institutions. I want the top 10 borrowing institutions. And when I say the top 10, I want by the number of requests And perhaps I also want by the least average hours of requests sent to material arrival. So let's take this report. It's called RapidILL Borrowing Requests in Previous Month with Turnaround Time per each lending institution. So we'll go to that report and we'll make our changes. So I'll go up a directory and then down into the reports. And we'll take this one, we'll say edit. And let's say now I want to come in here and say, I'm coming to the criteria tab, and I'll say average hours request sent to material arrival. And I want the fastest. So I will say filter. So I want the lower numbers here. So I will say is in bottom 10. Let's take a look. If that worked. Is in bottom 10. Okay, that looks like the smallest ones, yes. And I will sort that descending. So here's my average hours in the bottom 10. And I will say here, sort descending. Let's go take a look. Okay, maybe I'll even say sort ascending because I actually want the slowest on top. Here, slowest is good. It's not like when we're checking vendors for acquisitions where we want the slowest is bad. In any case, no, here the fast, in any case, you understand, slowest and fastest. We want them to supply the material as quickly as possible, which is a small number. So we're ascending. So we start with the small ones. Okay, now what do we want to display here? Do we want to display all of this information? Perhaps we do. Requested format is always digital. I don't think I need it. But I will leave the partner code in the lending institution. I'll get rid of that requested format because it's always the same. I will leave also the number of requests because that's significant. If I have a small amount, a small time of average hours, but I've only got one request, it might not be the biggest discovery. But let's say save as. And I will call this now a webinar. Call it webinar 2 because we did webinar 1. And this is going to be top 10 fastest borrowing request partners or lending partners. In any case, let's call this lending institutions, top 10 fastest lending institutions. So I've edited my report. I've kept it the previous month. Maybe I'll change that too. Maybe I'll say that I want the year to equal the year of the current date. Okay, so now it's giving me just the current year. So I'm going to save this, save, and I will call this now current year. And then we're going to take a look at it. So I'm going to get that most recently, this one here. I'm just going to rename that to current year. So we'll have more results. And let's take a look now. Okay. Yep, those are different results. So now we've got the current year. Let's take that our average hours. Still sorting ascending. Okay. Yep, that's recorded. That's ascending. So now let's say I want the number of lending, they want the lending institutions according to who's really supplying me with a lot. So I will remove this filter of the hours And I'll make a filter here. I'll remove this sort, clear all sorts and all columns. And now for the number of requests, I will filter this by is in top 10. And I'll sort that number of requests descending. Now I want to see the large amount on top, the biggest ones. And there we are. Here's my lending institutions. Here's the number of requests and the largest on top. So let's take this one and let's get rid of the other fields right now. Let's say we don't want the hours. And that will suffice. Then we'll say here we want, let me save this first of all, save as. This is going to be top 10 lending institutions by number of fulfilled requests. How do you spell fulfilled? That will have to suffice. F-U-L-F-I-L-L-E-D. Okay, I think I got 3 L's. Okay. So let's make a little visualization in here, and then we'll make it an analytics object that we'll be able to access. So I'll add here a graph of let's put in a horizontal bar. Let's put that horizontal bar right next to it. Let's get rid of that prompt here in the bar. So I will edit this view. And I will take this lending institution and put that as part of the bars. Let's see if that's what we want. Yeah, that looks nice. Done. Okay, and I'm going to right click here and say sort. And let's sort by number of requests, high to low. Nice. Okay, so now we have a nice report here. Let's put the graph over on this side. And then we've got the table. We see that the wrap internet. Oh, we don't even need the partner code here because they're all wrap. So we'll remove that as well. Now we get a nice report. So let's say I want this to be accessible to all my users. So we've saved it. So this is called Webinar 2, Top 10 Lending Institutions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is in a folder called RapidILL Ex Libris Reports. So that's an analytics object because the person who goes into analytics to create the reports, that's someone who has the role designs analytics, and they're creating reports and deleting reports and editing reports, et cetera. But what we call a consumer doesn't go into the designs analytics. They just consume reports. You can see I've got some links here. But we're going to create that one that we just made. In fact, I'm going to remove these so I have nothing, and then we're going to start from scratch. So I'm going to say analytics objects list. And I will say these 3 dots here, add new Alma analytics objects. And now the folder. I could wait for all the folders to load here and start going through them. But if I type here RapidILL Ex Libris, which is a name of that folder in a moment or 2 or 3, we'll get the name of the folder here. These objects can be scheduled reports or links to the reports from in Alma or a URL or a widget or a dashboard. For example, here, I've set up one that I get the RapidILL reports from Haifa. That's why I'm in this directory. So these are those reports sent from Haifa University to me because I subscribe to the report. And that sends the report. And when making the object, you can define how you want it to be sent as a PDF, a TXT, an Excel. So this is sent to me every day at 9 o'clock. I have a analytics object there sending me all 9 reports, or to be more exact, I have 9 different objects, each one sending a report. And then as you can see here, the report is sent just like we saw in Alma, and I'm getting it. So that's one type. Let's continue with what we're doing. Oh, this is still loading, so it's good I had something else. We'll continue that. This is loading here. You can see it spinning around, but we're going to be patient. Meanwhile, we've got plenty to do. So here also, and let's switch my browsers to here. So here you see under analytics, I've got number of RapidILL borrowing and lending. This is an analytics object. It's a link directly to the whole dashboard. And when the user clicks there, it opens it up and puts it in a new tab. Because we don't expect every consumer to have the designs analytics role and to go into the analytics and do it. Let's see what's going on here with that Chrome. There we go. Great. So now I'm going to go into the reports file here. So we were in here. I got the backup one. We don't want the backup one. That's the dashboard. Here we are, reports. And under report name, we should see the one we made. Here it is, Webinar 2 Top 10 Lending Institutions. Let's take that one. And I'll call this Made in Webinar. By default, it gets the name of the display name is the same as the name of the report. And I'm just calling it something different now. I'm calling it Made in Webinar Top 10 Lending Institutions, and we'll say save. Now I define here, what do I want this to be? Do I want it to be a scheduled report? It can even be a widget. I could make a pie chart, or I could take that graph and make it smaller and make it a widget on the Alma landing page. Here, first of all, I need to define which users are going to be able to access this. For example, I could hard code certain users by clicking this add users, or I could say users with a certain role can access this. So if I click that roles and I go into the fulfillment, this, by the way, what I'm showing is not unique to the RapidILL stuff. It's how we make reports and dashboards available to a consumer. And in our case, we're doing it for the RapidILL dashboard and reports because that's the one we've been working with. So I could choose specific ones here, or I can say any fulfillment. Or I could do it in the others as well. So right now, users with any fulfillment role can access this. If I want to make this a scheduled report, I would click here, scheduled report, and define here the when I want this sent. And I could say here, if I want that as an Excel, the example I showed was an Excel, or the other ones, I could even send it to an FTP server, but we're not going to make that a scheduled report. And that's really all I need. If I say pin to selected users role, it will automatically get added to any user who has a fulfillment role. I'm going to click that, and then we're going to remove it. So now that will automatically be for any user who has a fulfillment role, he or she will have a link to that. I'm going to leave this how it is. I'm going to sign out and sign in, even though I really don't need to, but I want to show it fresh. I come in here, and if now I go to my analytics menu, I see that I've got a link directly to it, Made in Webinar Top 10 Lending Institutions. I click there. It opens in a new tab, and we've got our customized report that any user who has the fulfillment role can access. And we could also, the user can come to the shared with me. The shared with me is all of the analytics objects that have a role that the logged in user also has. And because I have them sorted descending by the object creation date, the one that we just created is right here on top. If I grab this URL, I'm going to say copy link on the URL. So the user can bookmark this and automatically have a link to it. I'm going to go to that URL, and anytime he or she wants, he or she can open that URL and get directly there. That will not work in a different place, or if the user is not logged into Alma and has those. For example, I opened up a different browser where I'm not logged in and I can't access it. Instead of bringing me to the report, it brings me directly to the login page. I'm going to come back here to this one. And so that I won't have this anymore because I want to keep the environment clean, I'm just going to remove that one. So made in webinar, I am going to remove this object. So it no longer exists. So I leave everything clean as I found it. Okay, so I see we have 4 minutes left. I'm going to stop for a moment sharing. Bronwyn or Lynn, if there's anything you want to add to what I stated, feel free to go ahead. I will briefly look at the chat.
Right. The chat, somebody's asked about making reports based on staff members.
Based on staff members who handled the report, let's see, is criteria turnaround time by each staff member. Okay, we can take a look at that. Let me see what else we got. Okay, I see you answered some other ones, Lynn. That's good, thank you. And Bronwyn, I see you answered some. So let me go take a look at what people are talking about. So that last question is, let me just reread it to make sure I got it straight. Oh, lending, that is. Okay. On the lending reports, oh, that's what you meant by eldening. Is it possible to add operators? Let's take a look. So the question is, on lending reports, is it possible to add operator staff member as a criteria? Well, first let's add it to see if it exists at all. And then we'll be able to see if it, oh, oops, we don't want that browser.
Can you share?
Yes. Thank you for letting me know I wasn't sharing. Share screen share. Okay. So if I were to come here and let's go to those reports. And we're talking about the lending. We got 4 minutes here. The only thing I'm going to do is look and see if we have that data. I don't want to show that data because then we are getting into the private information. Catalog. If we have the staff operator, I believe it would be called. So if we come here into RapidILL, let me do this by alphabetical order. And we're talking about lending requests in previous month. That would be the per each request. Okay. And if we come into the details, well, you know what? I'll do a search here. I'll start with operator. Nothing with operator. We're looking, let me just think for a minute. Lending request at the operator, even though, okay, let's see what we got here. Staff user, we got number of requests, we've got the citation, the creator. Let's come to the criteria tab for a moment. I'm going to see what that creator is. Like a lot of this stuff, you play around and you see what's happening. I'm going to put that in there, but let's see what else we've got. That's the bibliographic details creator. We don't want that. This is the lending request details creator. That's better. So that's the lending request details creator. Then we've got, oh, who created the partner? We don't want that. Then we've got the bibliographic record creator. We don't want that. Physical item creator. We don't want that. Okay. So let me take this and let's take the assigned to. Okay. So within the assigned to, I will put in here something. And I just want to see under creator. Okay, so we've got the information about the creator. We've got also the information about who it's assigned to. I don't want to start showing these. We don't have enough time, and that would bring us into the personal identification information, which we don't want to show. So you can use both the creator of the lending request and the assigned to. Okay, so that brings us to the very end here. Lynn and Bronwyn, thank you for joining us. And also from afar, a thank you also to University of Auckland, New Zealand. They were with us this morning in the previous session, which is in a time more appropriate for Auckland. And we hope to see you in our next sessions. We've got another one planned soon on a development for authority matching. We don't yet have a date, but it's already on the 2025 Roadmap webinar series. We'll get a date in there soon. We've just got so many webinars and so little time. Better that way than the opposite. So thanks everyone for joining. We'll be posting the recording either later today or tomorrow, depending on what you consider today and tomorrow, which depends on where you are. And we hope to see everyone soon in our next sessions. Have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.